I'm now joined live by John Pilger, Australian journalist and documentary filmmaker. Great to have you on the programme, sir. We've heard the UK police make a statement. The investigation's still very much active. It's going to take some time. No suspects named as of yet. British politicians, they've placed the blame squarely on Russia there, haven't they? No questions asked. Do you think this has been preemptive?
Well, no. I mean, you have to stand back from all of this. This is a carefully constructed drama as part of the propaganda campaign that has been building now for several years in order to justify the actions of NATO, Britain, the United States towards Russia. That's a fact. Russia is ringed by missiles. It has NATO right up on its western border. This is unprecedented since the Second World War. Most people in Britain, most people in the United States don't understand these dangers, the dangers of this propaganda. Now, this drama about whether or not Sergei Skripal was poisoned by Novichok. For one thing, it's up to the British government to supply evidence that even the most basic prima facie evidence, prima facie case that Russia was in any way responsible for this. Russia's nerve gas program, its Novichok, active Novichok program, was verified as destroyed in September 2013 by the United Nations watchdog. Unlike the United States, that is still to be destroyed. Porton Down, a few miles from where Skripal and his daughter were found, has a long and sinister record with nerve gas and chemical weapons. In 2015, The Independent in Britain disclosed that Porton Down was behind the experimentation. The government had experimented on British citizens with nerve gas agents, including on the London Tube. Going back to 1942, the British government had to pay compensation, had to decontaminate Gurlad Island, which it contaminated. The whole role of Porton Down has been integral to the Cold War apparatus of this, and I'm only stating that. I'm only stating that is that there is no evidence, and this is so dangerous with Russia being effectively pushed into a corner with these accusations. It's part of a propaganda campaign. I can tell you that. I'm a journalist who spent almost all my career working in the mainstream in Britain. This is a propaganda campaign promoted specifically in the media and in the government.
If I can just interrupt, Mr. Pilger, I want to get as many questions as I can. And I mean, if we can get back to the sort of question at hand here, I mean, Prime Minister Theresa May said it's highly likely that Russia was involved in some way in this, certainly some strong circumstantial evidence at least. I mean, are you ruling that out entirely as a possibility, any Russian involvement in this?
Well, there's no evidence that Russia is highly likely. Novichok, we don't even know if the Novichok program even existed. Russia's request for a sample of this nerve agent has been turned down. The British police have made no commentary on this. This is extraordinary. So you have an attempted murder, you have a crime scene, and you have no evidence. But you have, and neither do you have a motive. Why on earth would Russia, on the eve of an election and on the eve of staging the World Football Cup, want to destroy, if you like, its international name with such a crime? It makes sense, but there's plenty of motive on the other side, because, as I mentioned at the beginning, this is part of a carefully constructed drama in which the media plays a role, the government plays a role, both sides of the House of Commons play a role, unfortunately. And it's Iraq. If you go back to 2003, that carefully constructed drama saw an invasion of Iraq and the death of up to 1 million people. And we know that was based entirely on propaganda, deception, and lies. That, at the very least, should make us skeptical of May's theatrics in Parliament.
Mr. Pills, we're going to have to stop you there. We're running out of time. But certainly a very complex case, very wide diplomatic ramifications as well. A lot of questions unanswered, to evidence to be considered both sides here. John Pilzer, Australian journalist, documentary filmmaker, thanks so much for coming on and giving us your take today on what's a quickly deepening diplomatic scandal there.
Okay, now I'm going to talk about red flags. Okay, we've been going through some major things here now. This is very important. You people don't seem to be watching. People all over the world are sitting there with their telephone looking at da-da-da, da-da-da. Okay? I don't have one. In fact, it stopped. And I use the other one. It's not even a telephone. It's just I load down documentaries. I do research. I'm doing research into the King of the North, and I've been trying to accumulate the documentaires and they're proving who the King of the North is. But I'm going to tell you something. It looks like they're going to be hitting a world war very soon. They're pushing Russia into a corner. And they're doing it purposely. They've been doing it for the last 10 years that I know of for sure. Especially since Putin took the Russian off central bank. He took it back into the power of the Russian government and turned their country around. He's done the same thing that Adolf Hitler did. They did the same thing that Putin has done, the same thing that was done in Libya. Gaddafi was going for a gold standard. Russia got together with China and some countries in South America, and they did a BRICS. And the BRICS is hurting the dollar and hurting the almighty government that is running 180 countries in the world. They have bases in 180. Now, I'm going to link it up with some things here and let you listen to it. But they're exposing all the Russians. Russia, by the way, they don't have any biological weapons left. They have nuclear. They don't have the chemicals. The armament they destroyed, and they were verifying destroying, and they were doing it for get America to do it. America did not do it. It is loaded with chemicals. I know of chemicals and biologicals that are sitting in Sicily and in Italy. They're stockpiled. And they're stockpiled in America. I know of bases in America that is stockpiling. You people are not listening to what's happening. They're going for a third world war to eliminate a lot of men, a lot of women, a lot of children. They're using chemicals to destroy you physically, and it's not fast enough. They're pushing Russia into a war. Now look what happened in the First World War. The Lusitania was pushed into the area, was loaded with armament, and they told the American president, or nice Mr. Wilson, who give us the Federal Reserve and the income taxes, that he did that to go into the First World War. J.P. Morgan, was highly in debt, that Germany was winning the war. And they were on the verge of, England was on the verge of surrender. So they pushed. They had 5 ships actually. They were hoping all of them had Americans on them, and all of them were armored. And Wilson said, "If don't stop, don't let the Germans stop you." And, up until that time, Germans were stopping you. Submarines. He said, "Run them over, ram them, shoot at them, whatever. Don't let them stop you." They were provoking Germany to sink in so-called neutral ships. They told them if you capture the crew of a submarine, kill them. This would happen. They started neutral ships targeted. The Germans would just wanted to make sure the ships won't carry an armament. So the Lusitania, strange as it may be, Churchill called back all the ships that were supposed to be guarding it. And the Lusitania didn't know about it. And they told it to turn, and they went into where a submarine was at, sank. And J.P. Morgan had bought the control with Rothschild of 25 magazines, newspapers in America. And they turned 90% of the American population against Germany in very little time, especially with Lusitania. And Lusitania, the Germans tried to print ads telling people, they did flyers, but the ads were refused. First World War, a red flag. Second World War, Germany, he came back, Hitler came into power. He was financed for the American bankers and the Rothschilds and the Jewish bankers. We call them Israelites, the Zionists. They financed him. Look at who's behind Farber, J.C. Farber. Standard Oil was a major stockholder. Germany wouldn't have been able to have airplanes if it weren't for Standard Oil. And the cold gasification, Patton was owned by Standard Oil. But Hitler turned his country around. They were in debt. They were going to the food store to buy a pack of bread, a piece of bread with a roll barrel. Hitler came into power. Left. Hitler was Democrat. He wasn't Republican. There's no difference between the two of them anyway. But Hitler was left, socialist. That's what socialist is. It's a left. He hated communists, that's extreme left. But this extreme left, the communists he hated were all Zionists. Now, he took back the power of printing his money. And he did the Reichsmark and backed it by the German gold that he had. It had little. It made it valuable. It turned his economy around. Hey man, this guy, he went from a shitty economy to a major world exporting country in less than 5 years. Upsetting the New World Order. They were working on it. They financed him also, hoping to go into the Second World War. They pushed him into a corner. Japan, you don't even think about Japanese. They attacked America. America was neutral for the Second World War again with Hitler. So what they did is America starved the Japanese government. It pushed them into a corner, and they did it with all kind of sanctions. They grabbed the money. They grabbed the assets. They sent the people away, the ambassadors out. They stopped exporting the steel. The American tin cans were going to build the airplanes and run the steel industry in Japan. And they knew Roosevelt was a dictator. I do not look at Roosevelt as a good man. He was a dictator president. Everything that he did was wrong. He robbed the American people of their gold. Do your research. Now, when they pushed the Japanese into a corner, and they knew the Japanese were coming, they were sitting there, man, in November and saying, damn, the Japanese aren't coming yet. Roosevelt told them they're coming. And they knew exactly when they were going to attack Pearl Harbor. They knew it was the 7th. But what they were doing with their propaganda-controlled newspapers and video films, what they call newsreels. Excuse me, I remember the newsreels. They changed the intellectual reasoning of the American soldiers, American people. They called it an unprovoked war, unprovoked attack. 2,300 people died. And they knew they were there. And the Japanese tried to declare war. They were a little late, but they kept them out of the office until after the bombing was started, so they could say undeclared war, sneak attack. Now what are they doing with Russia? You listen to this man. This man has been doing, he's a critical thinker also, and he's pointed out. And I'm looking at an article on BBC. They're talking about all the embassies being pushed out and all the countries that are pushing out the Russians. They're locking them down. They're going for war. This is not a cold war. This is going to be a hot war. U.S. has also got rid of 60. UK and the Russians haven't even. The UK expelled 23 and Russia expelled 23. U.S. has expelled 60 Russians. Ukrainian 13. Now, Ukrainian shit, man. That's a baby, American baby dog there. And they're building a war base, an air base in Ukraine. It's going to eventually cause to be a hot problem. France 4, Germany 4, Poland 4, Canada 4. Czechoslovakia 4, Lithuania 3, Denmark 2, Netherlands 2, Italy 2. God damn it, tell you. And hope you get a new government in Italy soon. Spain 2. They're going after the people who tried to get their country split. The people wanted to be independent. Now they're going after all of them. They were lucky they weren't under Franco, because they would have been shot. Albania 2. It's the poorest country in Europe. Australia 2. Lithuanian 2. 1. Estonian 1. This is part of Yugoslavia. Kwasi. Excuse me. I have to think in English. Finland 1. Hungary 1. Latvian. So it was Russian. It's always been associated with Russian. Romania 1. Sweden. Well, Sweden. They're having immigration problems, and they're going to 1. Norway 1. Macedonia 1. It's a little country outside of Greek. And Ireland 1. And of all these been expulsion, Russia has only expelled 23 of UK. Everybody else is nothing. So here, are we going for war? Well, hopefully they don't impeach Trump and put back a war dog in. If Clinton had been in office, we would have already been into war, into a major war. Even Trump is looking like they're maneuvering him into a position of war. This is the hidden government, the shadow government is doing this. This is not the people. The American people don't even think. They're watching the damn football and drinking Bud Light with human fetuses as enhanced products. You people gotta think. Don't wake up. Well, we're going for war. And hopefully it's your ass that's dead. Well, I hope to be back out of the war zone. It's going to be in Europe. But I'm not going to America, because when the Third World War really does get hot, when they back Russia into the final corner, they've cut the sanctions off. They grabbed the money. Europe would have been freezing if it weren't for the Russians. Gas heating our houses and running our power plants. Not all the power plants in Europe are nuclear. There are a lot of them. They're shutting them down. They're having problems. But next winter, Russia knocks those lines off, and Ukrainian doesn't want to pay their bill they owe. They shut it down. And we're freezing. Have a good day.